China's powder keg ignites. Oppressed citizens rise up, blocking roads and clashing with police as protests spread across China. Wage protesters have been arrested, beaten, and even imprisoned, fueling widespread public discontent under CCP rule. 8 secret public security directives expose China's full-blown crisis, the CCP as a giant tumor on the verge of collapse. The CCP's public security sets traps to seize money, far-sea fishing sparks panic, private enterprises collectively lie flat, and a wave of bankruptcies and closures spreads. Trump may speak to China's Xi Jinping this week as trade talks progress. U.S. Senator condemns CCP as despicable and shameless, urges Americans to boycott Chinese goods. Welcome to New Century, your source for honest reporting and stories that matter. China's powder keg ignites. Oppressed citizens rise up, blocking roads and clashing with police as protests spread across China. China's economy is grappling with multiple challenges, including foreign trade, unemployment, food security, and a struggling real estate market. Businesses face severe cash flow issues, and unpaid wages have become a frequent problem. The Chinese Communist Party appears unable to resolve these issues, resorting instead to high-pressure measures to maintain stability. The growing number of protests against government policies underscores the chaos and diminishing control of the CCP's top-down governance. In rural China, farmers facing issues such as forced land requisitions or environmental destruction that threaten their livelihoods often turn to collective resistance. However, with limited channels for expression, their voices rarely reach social media platforms dominated by urban audiences, and their protests seldom attract widespread media or public attention. Despite this, collective resistance among farmers is not uncommon. On the morning of May 7, 2025, over 1,000 villagers in Guangzhou Village, Shantou City, Guangdong Province, blocked roads to defend their rights. They were protesting the local government's forced removal of fishing boats parked in a sheltered bay. The demonstration was met with suppression by a large force of fully armed police, resulting in physical clashes and several arrests. The conflict began in October 2024, when the Guangzhou Community Committee privately sold the Jiang Typhoon shelter and ordered villagers to relocate all fishing boats parked there. Guangzhou Village has a front typhoon shelter where villagers moor their boats, and in 2019 a back typhoon shelter was constructed. However, the back shelter deviates from the approved design, offers weak protection against typhoons, and is littered with reefs, posing safety risks. As a result, villagers have been unwilling to move their boats from the front shelter. The situation escalated on May 6, 2025, when the local government deployed large trucks to forcibly remove the boats. Villagers continued blocking roads until around 4 a.m. on May 7th, when riot police dispersed them. The clashes resulted in injuries and arrests. Beyond the boat issue, villagers expressed frustration over the sale of their land. Over the past decade, there has been no transparency regarding who purchased the land or where the proceeds went. Villagers have received no dividends, fueling their discontent. In total, an estimated 1,000 to 2,000 villagers participated in the road blockade on May 7th. On May 7th alone, 4 protest incidents were reported in rural areas. In Jiaotong Township, Lushan City, Jiangxi Province, villagers protested to prevent the township government from seizing mountainous land. They used their bodies to block construction vehicles but were forcibly removed by a large number of government personnel. The protest failed to halt the construction, and the villagers' voices were quickly silenced under strict information control. A similar incident occurred in Shuliu Tai Village, Qinyang Township, Yuyang District, Yulin City, Shanxi Province. To protect their homestead land, villagers blocked bulldozers with their bodies. One villager endured rough treatment, with police twisting their arms for an extended period. The villagers revealed that in 2011, over 400 households had purchased the land from the government for more than 10 million yuan to build homes. Recently, however, the local government resold the land to a logistics company, sparking months of rights defense actions. In Nanning County, Guangxi Province, villagers in Kaoding Village blocked bulldozers to protect their water source, which is critical for their survival. The local government plans to install wind turbines on the mountain, and villagers fear this will destroy the ecosystem and pollute their water. Protests have been ongoing since March 2025 and continue to this day. In Guangxi's Guigang City, villagers from Mao'er Mountain and Quanshan Village took more extreme measures. Armed with sticks and steel pipes, they confronted heavily armed police late into the night to prevent government-approved quarry teams from entering their village. The villagers were concerned that quarrying activities would damage the mountains and pollute the environment. On May 8th, hundreds of passenger tricycle drivers gathered on the streets of Junlian County, Yabin City, Sichuan, surrounding a transport management vehicle to protest the county government's newly implemented ban on passenger tricycle operations. In this small inland county in southwest China, tricycles have long been a vital mode of transportation and a lifeline for the livelihoods of many rural families. Until recently, operating passenger tricycles in Junlian County was legal, with many drivers holding licenses issued by the local government. The protest was sparked when transport officials seized a tricycle and demanded a 10,000 yuan, approximately $1,387 fine from its owner. The exorbitant fine drove the owner to an emotional breakdown, prompting them to sit in the middle of the road, blocking traffic in protest. This action quickly garnered support from other tricycle drivers and some local residents, leading to a rapidly growing crowd. The protesters surrounded the transport officials and their vehicle, loudly voicing their discontent with the new policy. The demonstration lasted approximately 2 hours before being dispersed by a significant police presence. As early as May 6th, when the new regulation took effect, hundreds of tricycle drivers had already begun rights defense actions. They gathered on the county's main streets and visited the county government to voice their demands but received no response from local authorities. Wage protesters have been arrested, beaten, and even imprisoned, fueling widespread public discontent under CCP rule. The broader Chinese economic environment continues to deteriorate, with numerous businesses collapsing in recent years. Due to financial difficulties, protests over unpaid wages have become increasingly common, spreading from real estate to other industries. Online reports indicate that some wage protesters have been arrested, beaten, or imprisoned, fueling widespread public discontent under CCP rule. From May 8th to 10th, workers from 6 construction projects managed by the China State Construction Group in Shenzhen, Guangdong, launched consecutive strikes over 3 days. Over 1,000 construction workers participated, blocking construction site entrances and demanding payment of overdue wages. Multiple striking workers reported receiving only 1,500 to 2,000 yuan, approximately $200 to $280 per person, as living expenses since resuming work after the Lunar New Year, with wage payments repeatedly delayed. One worker stated, "They initially promised wages by the end of April, then after Labor Day, and now they're telling us to wait and see this afternoon." On May 5th in Huizhou, Guangdong, hundreds of workers from Yuangao Electrical Company returned to work after the holiday, only to find the factory gates locked, workshop door locks replaced, and their personal belongings inaccessible. Before the holiday, the factory owner had assured workers that production would resume after the break, encouraging them to return home. However, this promise was merely a tactic to stabilize the workforce and induce them to leave. At the protest site, when confronted by workers, company management evaded key issues and even threatened to report them to the police. Due to time constraints, we can only highlight a few notable protests from this month. The CCP's strict censorship policies limit the spread of such information, meaning these protests represent only the tip of the iceberg of social unrest in China. Radio Free Asia cited Kevin Slotin, research director of the China Dissent Monitor database at Freedom House, stating that economic issues account for the majority of civil protests in China, with 45% related to labor disputes. Slotin noted, "Since the beginning of this year, the number of wage protests has surpassed previous years." A netizen named Sister Ban Zhao commented on the protests, "China has entered a mode where black and white are reversed. Those who withhold wages don't go to jail, but those demanding their pay do. Those who forcibly demolish homes don't go to jail, but those defending their homes do. Corrupt officials don't go to jail, but those demanding transparency of officials' assets do." Those creating wrongful convictions don't go to jail, but rights-defending lawyers do. Those producing toxic food don't go to jail, but those exposing the truth do. Those embezzling billions don't go to jail, but those reporting it on Weibo do. 8 secret public security directives expose China's full-blown crisis, the CCP as a giant tumor on the verge of collapse. A list of 8 directives reportedly issued by China's Ministry of Public Security and referred to as the 8 things that must not happen again has been circulating in mainland Chinese WeChat groups, attracting widespread attention. Analysts suggest that these 8 crisis points collectively paint a comprehensive picture of a profound social crisis under the rule of the Chinese Communist Party. The directives are as follows. 1. No further major political risks that threaten social stability. 2. No more extreme violent incidents, such as individuals ramming vehicles into crowds or retaliating against society. 3. No more large-scale stampede accidents. 4. No more unorganized large-scale gatherings such as night cycling events. 5. No more incidents like the white paper movement or activities labeled as mourning or memorial events. 6. No more collective actions stemming from malicious wage arrears, layoffs, or similar grievances. 7. No more serious crimes involving firearms or explosives, with a firm bottom line of 0 terrorist attacks. 8. No more delays, omissions, false reports, or cover-ups. Minor issues must not be allowed to escalate into major crises. Current affairs commentator Tang Jingyuan stated in a social media program that these 8 points represent crises that have already occurred, are currently unfolding, or are likely to recur in China. Each reflects a critical societal conflict, and together they form a comprehensive portrait of a systemic crisis under CCP rule. The party has always tightly controlled such negative information to prevent it from leaking. That's why they avoid issuing official documents, so the contents aren't accidentally exposed. This allows them to continue portraying China as the safest country in the world, Tang said. He noted that the first directive, no further major political risks, carries a particularly revealing implication. It seems to implicitly acknowledge that significant regime-threatening events have already taken place, hence the emphasis on must not happen again. Regarding the directive addressing protests caused by wage arrears or layoffs, Tang pointed out that the public security system's stance is clear. Their focus is not on those who delay or withhold wages, but on those who protest to demand them. They don't hold malicious employers accountable for unpaid wages. Malicious layoffs are not their concern either. What they prohibit is any form of rights defense or collective protest. Historian and current affairs commentator Zhang Tianliang emphasized that the Ministry of Public Security's approach does not aim to solve root problems. They should be working to prevent wage arrears and unjust layoffs. Instead, they focus solely on suppressing the unrest these issues cause. In other words, they're treating the symptoms, not the disease. The second directive, banning extreme acts like driving vehicles to retaliate against society, also reveals flawed logic. Tang questioned whether such actions can realistically be anticipated or prevented. What they should do is address the underlying social tensions, which would naturally reduce the likelihood of such incidents. Zhang added, "How can you guarantee that no one will ever drive with malicious intent? Once someone gets in a car, do you know where they're headed? You can't confiscate every car in society." Interestingly, the fourth directive, banning group night cycling, is prioritized above movements like the white paper protests or armed criminal activities. Tang believes this highlights the CCP's fear of spontaneous mass gatherings, such as the night rides in Zhengzhou. They're unpredictable, untraceable, and difficult to suppress. That's what scares the CCP most, events that give no warning. It's similar to how the Arab Spring or the uprising in Syria began with seemingly minor incidents. Li Yuanhua, a Chinese historian based in Australia, explained that these 8 concerns are precisely what the CCP fears most at this moment. With the economy in decline and social discontent running high, any single incident could trigger mass protests or anti-CCP actions. These 8 issues are indeed the biggest headaches for the Ministry of Public Security, yet they're unsolvable, which makes large-scale unrest highly likely. Tang Jingyuan concluded, "The CCP is like a massive tumor, completely festering and necrotic. Its surface can no longer hold together. That's why we're seeing ruptures in various places. This isn't something that can be fixed with a few band-aids. When the pus builds up and the pressure becomes too great, it will inevitably burst. And the Ministry of Public Security's response is nothing more than slapping on a few band-aids." The CCP's public security sets traps to seize money, far-sea fishing. Sparks panic, private enterprises collectively lie flat, and a wave of bankruptcies and closures spreads. A new term has recently emerged in China: far-sea fishing. It refers to local governments sending public security officers to other regions to seize assets from local enterprises, particularly private companies in economically developed provinces. The damage caused by these actions has reportedly been severe. A source shared a case. "Some investigative methods have gone too far, resorting to any means to extract money. I handled a case involving a fraud amount of only 180,000 yuan, approximately $24,600, with 5 or 6 suspects. In 2022, external police approached them, and to secure bail, they sold their houses and cars, repaying over 2 million yuan, approximately $274,000. Even after the bail was lifted, these individuals were detained again in 2023. Authorities assume that if they could pay 2 million, there must be more undiscovered issues. I don't understand. Initially, they said paying the money would resolve the matter, but now they're reopening old cases. In Guangzhou alone, nearly 10,000 companies reportedly fell victim to far-sea fishing in 2023, causing an estimated economic loss of 100 billion yuan, approximately $13.7 billion. One notable case involved Yijian Kang, a nationally recognized company that earned 2.423 billion yuan in 2022 and was preparing for a Hong Kong IPO in 2023. However, a minor economic dispute involving 600,000 yuan led external authorities to freeze 64 accounts and seize 758 million yuan, forcing the company into bankruptcy and liquidation. Private business owners are under immense pressure in this hostile environment. One commented, "Private enterprises are already struggling to survive in a complex environment. Now, regulatory bodies, including commerce, taxation, environmental protection, labor, and safety inspections, treat us like ATMs. Compliance has become nearly impossible." According to the Financial Times, at least 82 senior executives from publicly listed companies in China were detained by local authorities in 2024, with about half arrested by police from other regions. These actions, often lacking a legal basis, have eroded confidence in China's business environment and are brewing another potential economic crisis. An insider shared a shocking case. At the end of the year, business owners received court summons one after another. A private steel plant processing 4 million tons annually was hit with 16 cases in a single day, with enforcement orders totaling nearly 600 million yuan. Destroying a private enterprise has never been easier. The root causes of far-sea fishing include 1. Financial shortfalls among local governments. 2. Excessive authority enabling local enforcers to freeze any bank account. 3. Ineffective oversight, with many cases stemming from regional disparities. 3rd, a deteriorating survival environment for private enterprises due to unchecked enforcement. Some regions reportedly even set traps for enterprises, freezing accounts upon receiving suspect funds. Businesses, unable to verify the legitimacy of incoming transactions, often find themselves wrongly accused of aiding financial crimes. Private enterprises face 4 paths to collapse. First, they are fished to death by far-sea fishing squads. Second, they are dragged under by local government debt crises where money owed to private businesses is not repaid. Third, they are destroyed by excessive local regulations. Fourth, they are paralyzed by fear. If private enterprises fail, state-owned enterprises, SOEs, and central enterprises will struggle even more. While private enterprises are said to contribute 50% of tax revenue and 80% of employment, their actual tax contributions are likely much higher. More importantly, they provide jobs and income for the majority, fueling consumption. Private enterprises are the ocean, while SOEs and central enterprises are merely the fish within it. If the ocean dries up, the fish won't survive either. The practice of far-sea fishing, previously known as cross-provincial arrests, has intensified in recent years. The core reason is the financial strain on the government following the COVID-19 pandemic. With dwindling funds, authorities are targeting enterprises, especially private ones, as sources of revenue. This stark reality underscores the deepening crisis for private enterprises and the broader economic challenges facing China. Trump may speak to China's Xi Jinping this week as trade talks progress. President Donald Trump announced he may speak with Chinese leader Xi Jinping by the end of the week, a move signaling progress in U.S.-China trade negotiations. Following a high-level meeting in Switzerland, the two countries reached a breakthrough agreement, a 90-day tariff reduction starting May 14th. As part of the deal, the United States will scale back additional tariffs on Chinese imports from 145% to 30%, while China will lower its duties on U.S. goods from 125% to 10%. Trump emphasized that China has also agreed to dismantle key non-tariff trade barriers, a development he called maybe the most important thing to emerge from the Geneva discussions. While the agreement is not yet finalized, Trump confirmed both sides are moving to formalize it. He said, "We have to get it papered, but they've agreed to open up China." The current breakthrough follows months of escalating tariffs. On April 2nd, Trump imposed a steep 145% tariff on Chinese imports, triggering immediate retaliation from Beijing, including a 125% levy on U.S. goods and sweeping non-tariff restrictions. Chinese authorities also barred the export of dual-use items and blacklisted several U.S. companies. Despite the tensions, Trump described U.S.-China relations as very good, adding that his administration is not looking to hurt China. He noted, China was being hurt very badly. They were shutting down factories, dealing with unrest. They were happy to come to the table, and now the relationship is very, very good. Treasury official Scott Bessent confirmed both sides will aim to avoid further tariff escalations and build on what's now being dubbed the Geneva mechanism. Bessent said in a CNBC interview, "We have a process now. We have a meeting mechanism. We loosely christened it the Geneva mechanism." In a separate interview with Bloomberg TV, Bessent criticized the Biden administration for failing to enforce the Phase 1 trade agreement from Trump's first term. He said, "We had a strong deal." But once President Biden took office, China simply ignored its obligations. Asked whether he trusts Beijing to follow through this time, Trump said he does. He stated, "I think they want the deal very badly." However, commentator Lee Moo-young, host of the YouTube channel News Highlights Lee Moo-yang, said in the May 13th episode that when it comes to this round of U.S.-China trade talks, there's a strong chance that Trump is once again being misled by the Chinese Communist Party. During his previous term, the CCP deceived Trump repeatedly, from tariff negotiations to the COVID-19 pandemic. Time and again, Beijing broke its promises, leaving Trump spinning in circles. Yet even now, Trump seems to hold on to a lingering illusion about the CCP. As one netizen aptly put it, if the CCP had kept its promises back then, there wouldn't even be a trade war today. When China joined the WTO in 2001, the CCP pledged to lower import tariffs to around 15% within 15 years, open up its markets, including sectors like telecom and energy, to international standards, protect intellectual property, reduce the dominance of state-owned enterprises, and safeguard human rights. But it's now been 24 years. How many of those promises have been fulfilled? Has even one been fully honored? According to Lee, the truth is the CCP is not a normal political party. Its commitments mean nothing. Anyone thinking clearly can see this is simply a delay tactic. If the CCP hadn't bowed down, it would have collapsed by now. So, to preserve its regime, it swallowed its pride and dropped to its knees. And not just kneeling, but kneeling with precision. But if you believe the CCP truly intends to reform, then you're making a grave mistake. Every action the CCP takes is politically calculated. Kneeling is merely a ploy to buy time, deceive Washington, and prolong its survival. The moment the U.S. loosens its grip and allows it to breathe, the CCP will reveal its true nature again and likely strike back even harder. So the real issue isn't whether the CCP is kneeling or how properly it kneels. The issue is this: the CCP has never, ever kept its word. If genuine reform were truly on the table, the U.S. wouldn't need to impose 145% tariffs or apply maximum pressure in the first place. U.S. Senator condemns CCP as despicable and shameless, urges Americans to boycott Chinese goods. U.S. Senator Rick Scott delivered a sharp rebuke of the Chinese Communist Party during an interview at the Harvard Kennedy School, denouncing its actions as despicable and shameless. Scott stated, "Communist China has chosen to be our enemy. The most important thing every American can do now is to immediately stop buying products made in Communist China and start supporting American-made goods." He added, "The only way to avoid war with China is to completely destroy their economy. As long as they have money, I believe we will end up in conflict." Drawing a parallel with Russia, Scott said, "If Russia had more money, it would continue expanding." That's who Putin is. That's also who Xi Jinping is, or rather, that's the nature of their regimes. He called for a complete halt to U.S.-China trade. We should not trade with China at all. We should tell them today, you lie, cheat, and steal. Scott highlighted the U.S. fentanyl crisis, stating, "Precursor chemicals produced in China contribute to 78,000 American deaths from fentanyl every year." He criticized Beijing's disregard for international trade norms. They've never abided by WTO rules or respected most favored nation treatment. They've also failed to honor trade agreements reached during the Trump administration. They have never kept their word. If I made a deal with you and you cheated me, would I make another? Number, I'd say I'm done doing business with you. I don't trust anything you do. I don't believe a word Xi Jinping says, nor do I trust his actions. Scott referenced his personal connection to Hong Kong pro-democracy figure Jimmy Lai. A friend of mine, Jimmy Lai, is imprisoned in China for founding a newspaper in Hong Kong and speaking the truth about Xi Jinping. He's been in solitary confinement for 4 years. That's the true nature of China under the CCP. He noted the U.S. government's reliance on Chinese technology and goods. When I entered the Senate 6 years ago, 85% of drones purchased by our federal government came from China. Would you buy critical equipment from your enemy? They've chosen to be our enemy. It took me 5 years to get the military to stop buying those drones, and 6 years to prevent new Chinese drones from entering our market within the next 12 months. To this day, nearly all the medicine used by our military comes from China. That's sheer stupidity. They've chosen to be our enemy, and this must end. Scott warned Americans about the consequences of trade with China. Every time you buy something from China, you're helping their government build a military to undermine your freedom. Their military is already built. They have more warships, submarines, and a larger army than we do. They are preparing for war with us. They want Taiwan, but Taiwan is not part of China. Historically, it was under Chinese control for only a brief period, yet they're determined to take it. He also highlighted Beijing's actions in the South China Sea. They're encroaching on Philippine sovereignty. Those reefs have never been part of China, never. Yet they're seizing them anyway. Scott concluded, "This is a vile regime. Not the people, but the government is utterly despicable and shameless." Thanks for being with us at New Century. If you believe in thoughtful, independent journalism, we invite you to subscribe, share your thoughts below, and stay connected. Until next time, stay curious and take care.